First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Some severe weather is going to be making its way into our area later this evening. It could be even worse than what we saw yesterday morning. Coming up, I'm going to tell you about what you need to know about this storm.
Somebody had stayed in the tent, burned holes in our tent, and then of course we had to deal with the storm.
Severe weather rolled through North Florida early yesterday morning, bringing more rain to the area in 4 hours than we've seen in 4 months. And the sequel comes tonight. That's our top story. I'm Danny Matthew.
And I'm Maggie Lorenz. Thank you for joining us. The downpour also made an impact on homeless people camping outdoors.
Austin Landis spoke to residents at Dignity Village in Gainesville, in Northeast Gainesville today, and she joins us now.
Danny, Maggie, there was no mandatory evacuation for the storm yesterday, and I spoke to some residents who say even if there was, they would have stayed outside at Dignity Village. But I spoke to one man who says he did learn one lesson from Tuesday's storm, and he's preparing to weather the next one tonight. Don Rosted was out of town during the storm early Tuesday, and when he came back to his tent near Grace Marketplace,
Got totally soaked because the rain came in up underneath the tent.
He thinks someone used his tent while he was away and burned holes in the bottom while smoking cigarettes. He put up a tarp for last night's rain, and so did many other homeless campers. Rosted lost an entire tent back in October when Hurricane Matthew passed by.
We were staying on that side, and that hurricane came through and it demolished the tent. But they also did advise everybody to get out.
With normal storm fronts where the damage is unpredictable, authorities cannot order a mandatory evacuation.
And they have to have a true threat to, life safety, and that there's a potential they could die from an event.
When it's stormy, Dignity Village residents are allowed to go inside Grace Marketplace for shelter, provided there's enough room. The outdoor pavilion is armed with plastic sheets to help keep out the rain, but some campers don't like the crowds or leaving their things behind.
Even then, people out there, the residents, they just choose they'd rather stay home, and that's their home.
Rosted stayed home during Hurricane Matthew, and he says he'll stay outside Grace's gates as the next storm moves through tonight.
Putting that tarp back on there and just deal with it and see how it goes.
The campers at Dignity Village can expect the storm to hit their area early tomorrow morning between 2 and 6 a.m.
Thanks, Austin. So, Maggie, earlier we heard about some severe weather that would be rolling through our area tonight.
Right, yes we did, and it could potentially be very dangerous. WUFT's Grayson Jarvis joins us over in the Weather Center with those details.
Yes, we are tracking a storm system that's a little bit west of Tallahassee right now, and we'll be moving into our area later this evening. Let's look at this right now. As you can see, this front coming in, it's sitting again a little bit west of Tallahassee right now, and we'll be moving into our area around midnight tonight. You can see how intense this storm is. All that red, that's heavy wind, heavy rain, all through our area that's going to be moving into our area. Let's go ahead and look at what this is actually going to be bringing with it. Again, the timing. It's going to be hitting around midnight, should be dissipating in our area around 6 a.m. And the things that it's bringing with it: wind damage, heavy winds, the possibility of some hail, and even the potential of an isolated tornado around our area. So make sure to get whatever you need to get done tonight done before this hits. And of course, cooler temperatures are going to be coming with us behind this front. So for those of you who have not been a fan of these higher temperatures, you are in luck. Let's look at the radar right now coming through. As you can see, there's not really much going on in our area right now, but moving forward, especially into tonight, we're going to be expecting a lot. Back to you.
Thanks, Grayson. As the city of Gainesville becomes more bike-friendly, it could revisit more and more troubled spots around town.
Last year, a viewer asked us why part of Newberry Road has bike lanes on either side of a small stretch where they vanish for parking. This year, the city agrees it may be time for a change. Jennifer Stalen joins us now.
After talking with cyclists in Gainesville, they feel very unsafe being forced to ride in a road without a bike lane. A new proposed plan to make more bike lanes could be less dangerous and help more bikers feel more comfortable. As Gainesville tries to encourage commuting by bike instead of car, it could rework a half-mile stretch of Newberry Road where bike lanes give way to curbside parking. Local planners have asked the state to make a change near 43rd Street if the money can be found. Bicyclists say it's too dangerous to be on the main roads if there's not a designated bike lane.
I think that's extremely dangerous for the average cyclist who's not prepared for something like that. I've seen a lot of major accidents in the city because of situations specifically just like that.
And when bikes are forced to ride on the sidewalk, it puts pedestrians in harm's way.
Cyclists in Gainesville are worried about the dangers of bike lanes and having to weave on and off sidewalks instead.
I feel like it's a very big inconvenience because as the weather is warming up, you have a lot more people, pedestrians on the sidewalk, and we need to go around them, which puts us in the, lane of traffic where we can get hit. So I feel like expanding it would be a lot more better.
Dozens of parking spaces would be lost, and the change is estimated to cost as much as $200,000 to implement. If the funding can be lined up, the Florida Department of Transportation will hold a public involvement meeting to get more community input before a final decision is made.
This portion of Newberry Road was recently repaved, but DOT will restripe it if that's the final decision.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, it looks like many parents in Putnam County will lose the option of having their students ride the bus to school. WUFT's Elizabeth Del Carmen joins us from the newsroom with more on the school board looking at budget cuts.
Putnam County School Board members initially cut transportation to daycare centers, but are now including secondary schools. So middle and high school families living up to 2 miles from their school will need a backup plan.
$1.5 million. That's how much the Putnam County School Board is trying to save in the upcoming year. The board voted Tuesday to discontinue transportation for older students who live within 2 miles of a school.
We, as well as almost all governmental agencies, not just school districts, have to find ways to cut. We have to. The state's not funding education like it used to.
The state only funds transportation for students who live 2 or more miles away, so it costs a district $5 million to offer better service.
About 6,000 to 7,000 students ride the school bus in Putnam County. 900 of those students live within 2 miles of a school and will now have to find their own transportation.
Some in the community are concerned about safety.
That's a long time for a kid to have to walk down a busy road with no lights, no sidewalks. It's the main road. I mean, what could happen? It's very concerning.
The school board says it will work with law enforcement to assess hazardous areas where children may walk. Apart from safety, there's a question of fairness.
How can we look at these kids that are inside this 2 mile zone and say, we're not going to pick you up, but we're going to pick these kids up over here? That feels like a little bit like discrimination to me.
A need to build reserve funds and a shortage of bus drivers were also factors in the decision. School board member says they'll have to make other cuts too.
It's just a difficult decision. It was, because we understand that it will adversely affect some parents, but like everybody needs to be in this together. It's education's a community thing, and we're in a pinch.
The change will take place in August.
Workshops will be held in coming weeks for school board members to continue working on budget cuts. They may consider extending the bus route to elementary schools. Board members say the only way they can go easy on transportation changes is if they somehow find plenty of money to save elsewhere. Elizabeth Del Carmen, WUFT News.
Thanks, Elizabeth. In political news, President Trump has removed Chief Strategist Steve Bannon from the National Security Council. According to a top White House official, Bannon was placed on the NSC's Principals Committee only as a check against then National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Now that Flynn is gone, Bannon is no longer needed in that role. Bannon, a former executive for Breitbart News, had attended only one NSC meeting. Critics have said it was inappropriate for Bannon to play a role on the council. President Trump today condemned the chemical attack in Syria, calling it an affront to humanity. During a press conference with Jordan's King Abdullah II at the White House Rose Garden, President Trump said the attack crossed many lines and can't be tolerated. The president said the attack, which killed dozens of people, including women and children, had a big impact on him.
Their deaths was an affront to humanity. These heinous actions by the Assad regime cannot be tolerated.
Trump and King Abdullah renewed their commitment for peace in the Middle East and to fight terrorism. Members of the royal family joined hundreds to pay tribute to the victims of the London terror attack. The multi-faith service took place just yards away from Westminster Bridge, where attacker Khalid Massoud ran over pedestrians with a car before stabbing a police officer outside Parliament. Prince William, his wife Kate, and Prince Harry joined hundreds of police, ambulance workers, and firefighters who helped victims to mourn their deaths.
Coming up, we'll tell you what famous donut shop is making headlines today with a recent purchase of a popular franchise. WUFT News First at 5 is just getting started.
And coming up, I'm going to be telling you about the storm system that's going to be moving through our area later this evening.